Podcast.
Running a business isn't just about strategy or profit. It's about people and the pressure that comes with being responsible for them. Welcome to the Brokerpreneur, the podcast where we talk about the real side of business, the weight, the responsibility, and the things you're expected to carry without ever talking about it. Today's conversation with Vik is one we couldn't fit into a single episode because it's just too important a subject. Part 1, we talk about the mental load of being a business owner, absorbing staff problems, customer pressure, and your own stress, all while trying to keep everything moving. If you've ever felt like you had to stay strong for everyone else, this one's for you. Let's jump in. Welcome, everyone, to the Brokerpreneur. I'm your host, Lee Stone here. Today I am joined with Vik Maxwell, the previous owner of Vik's Place. And she's come on to give us a little bit of a background about her business journey, talk to us a little bit about what she's gone through. I think it's going to relate to a lot of you guys out there. So thank you very much, Vik, for stepping in and coming here and having a chat.
Thank you. No worries at all. Thanks for asking me.
Not a problem at all. Now, like I said, you were the previous owner of Vik's Place, which was a little beachside sort of restaurant over in Port Noarlunga, Southport area. Can you please, just to start things off, give us a little bit of a background on yourself and then sort of the progression of why you went into opening a business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always wanted my own business, well, hospitality business from probably as long as I can remember. So it's always been a massive dream of mine. In England, I worked in hospitality and worked long hours from a chef right up to sort of management level. Moved over here in 2005, 2 young kids, and decided it had to go another way. I couldn't do hospitality without my support from family members and babysitting and all that type of thing with the hours that they are.
Yes.
So got myself into a finance position, financial planning, and basically ran with it until the kids were old enough. So the goal was always to try and have my own place. At this point, my son's also a chef, and several people had sort of said, look, if your son ever wants a restaurant, we'll back you. As long as you run the business, do front of house and the finance. So I kind of thought to myself, man, how do I get back into hospitality after having like 15 years of not doing it? Things are not quite as they used to be. Like we didn't have computers for a start. So,
everything was written down, wasn't it? And
it was all such a learning curve. Anyway, I was given a real go with Leonard's Mill down at Second Valley with Hayley and Ian, who were amazing. My son had actually just been a chef there. So as soon as he left, that's when I applied for the position. And he was just in stitches going, I can't believe you're going back into hospitality. You're crazy.
It's a big swap. It is a big pivot though, isn't it? From being a chef and to then financial planning to then come straight back to hospitality again. So
yeah. And you know what, though? I would never have known any wines in England. Like, I changed beers and things like that. But moving over to Adelaide and falling in love with McLaren Vale and the region and everything it had to offer, it was kind of like a no-brainer. Like, how could you sit and talk to somebody about finances when you could be stood in McLaren Vale, like, talking about these amazing wines?
Driving through the vineyards, the beauty of that place, going to work and coming home from that is just like, it's a beautiful spot just in itself going through that.
So, and it took me 3 years. I was doing 5 days a week in finance and then doing 2 jobs. Maxwell Wines also took me on with the most amazing Jeremy and Mark and Fabian. What a team to learn from. And then
they do some great stuff there. They've got a beautiful spice mead. My fiance is all about that. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. They used to be some of my favourite things to talk about, and it just was kind of like natural progression, I guess. Really, suddenly I was getting more hours in hospitality, and I could afford to cut back on the finance side. And then suddenly it was kind of like, okay, I'm just going to run with hospitality now.
Yep.
So I gave up the finance side, and then COVID hit.
Perfect timing, right?
Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm a casual employee working in hospitality, and I haven't got any money now. It's great.
Oh, God. Was there a little part of you then when COVID hit that you went, shit, just if I had held off that little bit longer, Things
I don't
wouldn't
know.
have gone
I
down this
kind of,
direction.
I kind of thought it was quite funny at the time because when I actually got my financial planning diploma, it was 2008 when the global crisis hit, and so I was kind of like, man, the universe is teaching me
Oh,
teaching me a
yeah,
lesson
get
here.
out of it. Get out of that industry.
But and at that point, I had my housemate, who's the head chef at the current shed,
Mm.
Wayne, living with me, and his venue kept going. They were doing meals at home, so thank God he came home, was telling me about the outside world and wines and food and all of that. So I then had also taken a position with Anna and Brad at Zontis. They were looking for someone to run the general wine bar, so that's kind of what happened there. Did 3 years there. Suddenly thought, man, this is really taking off. Like, I'm getting so full fully booked months in advance for the food that I was doing, and which was roast dinners predominantly, but I also changed the menu every week. So I'd spoken to the locals and said, right, guys, what do you want? And they said, look, we want to be able to come somewhere where it's good, healthy food. We're sick of the usual things. So I sat with the locals around the table and I said, okay, well, if I change the menu every week, what are you guys going to do? And they were like, that's an amazing idea. So that's when I started doing, burger nights, curry nights, all of that.
Mhm.
And then I'd also said to them, we're dying on a Sunday. We're getting nobody in for tastings. I don't know what to do. And one of the ladies said to me, well, what do you miss? I said, a roast dinner. And she was like, well,
Yeah.
do one. Do it.
Yeah.
So I started off with 8 of the locals who had persuaded me to do this. Um, and it was literally a roast and dessert. It was a packaged price, so I knew exactly what money I was taking. I was promoting cellar door wine sales, and I knew what staff I needed on. So it was that was the business.
That's the
And
dream right there as well. When you know exactly what you're
yeah,
getting out of it and what you're going to walk away with, you can plan it out a lot better. All your overhead,
absolutely.
got it all boxed up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the fact as well, we were offering tastings before the food, and we were tying in Zonti's wine so they could try the wines
Yeah.
because they'd never heard of them. So suddenly this venue was doing great, and I had people messaging that I couldn't fit in. And then I found the place that I just drove past one day and saw this place for lease and went in there and thought, I need some money. Like at the minute I'm living week to week.
Mhm.
And within 24 hours, I had 2 people that were willing to invest money into the business,
Mhm.
like up to $250,000, $300,000 based on what I'd been doing, which was like
Yep.
insane.
Yep.
So, and it went from there.
Well,
Bizarre.
for a bit of perspective, this location is absolutely beautiful. It's right on the sort of seafront area. It's the esplanade of, is it as Southport there, or is it Port Noarlunga?
It's Port Noarlunga South.
Port
Yeah.
Noarlunga South and that. So,
Yeah.
and it's a fantastic location. It's actually joint with a big motel that's been there quite some time as well. So you've sort of got regular guests and that coming through there. So it was what looked perfectly like a great location, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I think the thing was with the people that were already coming for my food, they were already driving to the General at McLaren Flat.
Yeah.
So even if they were coming from wherever, it was still closer than where they were going before. So not only would we have like the local trade coming, big surfing beach as well there. We'd also have, the hotel trade there as well.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the regulars that kept me consistently going as well.
Yeah.
So it ended up being that there was only one person invested because we figured it would work out easier rather than having,
Too many people involved that you got to
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
And it's also really hard because I knew from the figures that I've got and from working in the finance industry that I knew what I could get. Like I'd planned it out for 3 years. I'd even put in another COVID plan just in case.
You always
Because
have to be prepared. We didn't even expect that one. So,
well, do you know what? The bank manager said to me, the business banker said, I've never seen anyone with a COVID plan. We had a takeaway window and I'd got it all planned so that we could literally have like different sections for people to sit in. The takeaway window would be open. It'd be contactless. So I planned everything. Like I'm a planner.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, and COVID was one of those things that was, No one had experienced something like that. And actually, pre-COVID, things were starting to boom. I know
Yeah,
personally within the beer industry, there was craft beer was exploding. There was more and more bottle shops supporting it and that. And the
yeah,
economy was fairly stable. It was like, everything was on the up and willing to spend money. Then COVID hit, which was a really weird time. It was actually the
yeah.
first time in, about 5 years that I'd actually had like a break and actually had a bit of a
I
holiday.
think
But
I felt like that too because I was just
yeah.
like, oh, I don't have to work 7 days a week. What? This is
Oh,
crazy.
and that was it was like a holiday to me, but I
Yeah,
was still working. I was sitting in the tap house. I converted it to a bottle shop so I could still sell alcohol, and I just watched Netflix all day. So, with the odd customer, so I actually took that as a bit of a win. But then
yeah,
we came out of it, and there was a lot of financial support, a lot of government incentives, and that a lot of things to keep people going out spending money. That was the goal: support your local businesses so they don't struggle, and
yeah,
that started. And so, what better time to go into business, right? Because this is where all of a sudden everyone's got money to spend and they
yeah,
can come and support you. And that was like where, all right, cool, things are going to get better from here
yeah,
until all of a sudden that money needed to be recovered. And I think at that point was when banks started going, all right, we've lent enough money now.
yeah,
Now we need to see it come back. So we're going to up our interest rates. We're going to do all this. Now, a lot of people that don't have bank loans, mortgages, and all that sort of stuff were not the ones necessarily suffering from these sorts of interest rates and that pain, but the people
yeah,
that did have mortgages, they were going up and up and up, and that was how they were going to recover their money. So I think at
yeah,
that point, and tell me if I'm wrong, is probably the moment that all of a sudden business started to take a bit of a turn, especially local business, right?
yeah,
How did that
definitely.
affect? How did that affect you? Obviously, you've just then started your business. Tell us a little
Well,
bit about
during
that process.
COVID, I was still working at the General, but I still was looking at this venue and had got plans and everything around it. So really, I was quite lucky that I was still full employed at that time with Anna and Brad, but also part time with Maxwell's. So I ended up working Maxwell's cellar door, like with my friend Callie. It was great. We'd sit in the fancy dining room and have our sandwiches on our break, you know. But I think as a business owner or looking to be a business owner, it really made me change the thinking about finances. So,
Yep.
for example, I factored 8% decrease in the business plan because decline because with anything you start off like this and then you end up like this. So I was aware. I've been running businesses a long time. I've done bank loans and all the rest of it. So I think COVID made me a lot more cautious, but it also made me think that if it's happened once, then it could happen again. So where, if anything, can I, as a business, make sure that I survive? Which was what, like, if you think about it, back then, hotels were going crazy with guests, and I'd just
Yep.
offer room service. You know what I mean? So it's like I
Yep.
thought, well, if it happens again, that's fine because Coast Motel's going to get busy because people are traveling interstate, and
Yep.
I can just send food up to their room. Like I
Just
just
run the
wouldn't have any
kitchen, right? I
staff.
mean, you've got prior chef experience, so you could
Absolutely.
have just went, all right, we'll keep it
Yeah.
simple, we'll keep the kitchen running, we'll get food up to them.
Yeah, dead right. And it's like we had this beautiful pizza oven, so I wanted to make my own bases. And oh man, that frustrated me because like for weeks while I was still at the General, I was trying to cook these pizzas and I was sat crying because I couldn't get the bloody dough to work properly. And then all
Sourdough,
of a
is that was
sudden,
sourdough,
no,
was it?
no, it was like my special pizza base, which makes it thin and crispy. And I was
Right.
trying to remember like how I did it. And I was like, I am not serving pizza until it's perfect. I'm telling you right now.
That's
And
dedication.
but every night that pizza oven would be going, I'm so sick of pizza to be honest. But again, that was part of my plan. I was like, well, hey, we can offer takeaway pizzas to people. Like I got it sorted. Like
Yep.
that was
Yep.
that. We were going to
That's
succeed.
it.
It's as simple as
Yep.
that.
You got to have that sort of plan, and if you're all over it, you're like, I'm ready for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Until I
So
wasn't.
now you're running the business. You're sort of going, right, let's now crack into it and that. Like, give us a little bit of a insight into your everyday runnings on it, and then going through each seasons and some of the challenges you came up against.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had intended to come into the kitchen to start off with and then get a chef to continue once I'd got everything into place so that I could move out front. And it kind of didn't work like that. I set the restaurant up so it was like my home.
Mhm.
A lot of people had said that the food I did was kind of like what their nan did. And I remember walking into my nan's front door and having this overwhelming feeling of like the roast cooking and the condensation running down the window and this
Yeah.
huge feeling of home. So it had my family table in from home where we've all sat and shared many, many dinners.
Awesome.
And it had all the family pictures up. And when I was in the kitchen, I actually designed it so that there were mirrors down the wall so that when I was at nighttime, I could see the sunset every night.
Oh, beautiful.
So it was all like I had it all designed. I knew exactly where I was going and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Seasons for me were amazing because my food, I get busier in winter. So,
Yep.
when most businesses are really struggling, I'm just like fully booked, and like,
Yeah.
people want beef stew and dumplings and people want
Oh,
like
yeah.
beef ragouts and, and casseroles and all that type of thing. So I knew that winter, where most businesses struggle, I would actually be okay. So I was like,
Yep.
this is fine. Summer was harder for me in the venue because obviously who wants a roast dinner at 38 degrees on a Sunday?
Yep.
So then it kind of got to the point where I was like, I can't really take away the price point here because the two courses work.
Yep.
I had 100 people booked over 3 sittings and they were paying $42 per person for 2 courses.
Yep.
So that's Sundays kept me alive.
Yep.
And everybody was like, you're fully booked, like we can never get in. So then I was like, okay, we'll try doing it on a Friday night, whatever you could. But again, in summer, people didn't want that. So then I started doing lighter things, pizzas, Mexican nights, you name it. So it was very up and down. I did feel that we didn't get as much local support as I wanted. And I did speak to quite a lot of locals and said, look, oh, you just do English food. I was like, I don't. Like,
Yeah.
not at all. We're not, like, I do one day.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I do one day.
Yep.
And, oh, you only stock craft beers. So, as well as you guys that I was stocking, because you did us the beautiful Vic's Place can, I started getting like Peronis and, Coopers and stuff as well.
Yes. Which
So
is
it's
still at
like,
90% of the actual industry is actually lager drinkers and the light drinkers and that. So actually the craft beer is a very small portion, but when you're trying to support local, the
yeah,
Peronis and that aren't local, and to touch on that local element is it even for Shifty Lizard, it took us quite some time to develop that local support because we had 3 other pubs in the area.
yeah,
We had another brewery opening up down the road, and that local element was super important. However, we didn't actually get proper good local support until we did 50-cent wings. So we had to handball out food at almost, well, we literally didn't make any money off of the wings to try and make money off of the alcohol to get
yeah,
the locals. So, everyone talks about local support, but you would always seem to find that person that would go, I'm just going to go and grab Macca's for everyone on the way home rather than
yeah,
nipping over to the local place that served delicious burgers and supporting that. So
yeah.
it was a big drive for it, but,
I think when I was at the General, there was such a lot of local support because
yeah,
I would literally stop people because they used to just walk through and go to the bakery and I'd put the blind down. And
yeah.
then suddenly people were like, hey, how do we get out of here? I'm like, no, come for a free tasting. And, I would like, come for a free
You're
tasting
never
and talk
leaving
to me
now.
about what you want.
Yes.
And I feel because I got such good local support that when I went to Port Noarlunga, I was really hoping that I'd have all these people that would come in and I could meet them. Of course, I was stuck in the kitchen. That
Yep.
didn't help.
Yep.
But also, they'd walk past me to go to the Surf Life Saving Club,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, why? I've got this beautiful
Deep
deck and
down
I've got
there.
this beautiful sunset.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was a very. I mean, I know people that go down to that Surf Life Saving Club and that, and they do some really cheap stuff and that. Which then, I
Yeah.
suppose, you starts to
How
give
do
you
we
going,
do it?
yeah. How do we mimic this, and what do we have to do? And you do have to really sort of like cut some, like sacrifice a day here
Yeah.
and there of your
Yeah, and
revenue
that's it.
through
And we were
food.
kind of doing like happy
Yep,
hours, so we're posting because I noticed that people were going between 5 and 7. So I was
yep,
like, cool. From 5 and 7, I'll do a happy hour. We'll
yep,
do happy hour cocktails. We'll change that to $12 a week. I mean, where can you a drink? How can you get a cocktail for $12?
yep,
We started just doing bowls of chips and small snacks because people were like, we don't just want a full meal. So
yep,
I tried to do everything for everyone, I guess,
yep,
which
yep,
is that, oh, can we get homemade cakes? I started baking,
yep.
and I started doing cheesecakes,
That all
you know,
takes time, though, doesn't it? All takes time.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even with the Scotch eggs, they worked incredibly for me because the idea was never to sell the Scotch eggs. It was to get people to come for a drink when they pick them up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
Just
it was
stop and
that.
have one or two, grab
Yeah,
your kids and
which
out you
they
go.
were. So and that increased the trade so much. Suddenly we had people on the deck, and then people are driving by going, "Oh, that bar's open to the local," because that
Yeah.
was another thing. They thought the hotel had the kitchen,
Yeah.
so they thought it was attached to the accommodation, which was
Yeah. Right.
really, really hard to get people's mindset out of. But then I
Yeah.
noticed things like I say, like people were booking in for a roast and then adding on 3 Scotch eggs each when
Yep.
they left. So I'd suddenly got this, perfect scenario where, I'm getting people queue up. I'd get there at 5 o'clock and there'd be a queue out the door for Scotch eggs. Oh, we'll stay and have a beer. Actually, Vic, is it happy hour? We'll have another beer. That I was like, this is great. This is actually really boosting the trade.
Yep.
But Scotch eggs, oh my God, I'm so
Over
over
the
them.
cost.
You have no idea, like peeling those eggs. I did it all myself. Like I peeled all those bloody eggs and
Yeah.
I Googled every way, and it was like best if they were ice cold. So my fingers were freezing. I got gloves on, and I was just
Eggs are
like,
one of those things that you crack them and that you got to get each piece off, and then it's got a little layer on there as well, which
yeah.
tends to be a little bit sort of more dense. So when you do eat it, it's you don't
Oh,
want that
I
texture.
can't even. I can't look at eggs anymore. Like I hate eggs. I cannot even.
So pizzas or eggs.
No pizza, no egg. Like I'm really running out of food here. But it worked. It was really successful. And again, that extra $200 in trade, and then the drinks on top of it. And then quite often they'd be like, "Oh, did you make the cheesecake? Is it a Tim Tam cheesecake? Oh, I'll take a slice home." So again,
Yeah.
that's why I did it.
Yep.
It took me hours. You have no idea. It took me like 8
Yep.
hours to make 100 Scotch eggs.
Yep. Yep. But this is the passion. So you start to go, well, this is what is going to bring people in through the door. I've got to make it personal. I've got to put
Yep.
blood, sweat, and tears into it. So naturally,
Yep.
your journey was to also then step to the front of the house, but you found yourself staying out the back in the role that you've probably known most of your life to do the chefing and that. But this is also when you start to having to spend more time on things, or you're having to try and do these cheaper nights, there's a sacrifice. And
Yeah.
I know with me, sacrifice was my time and my money. So was that something that you saw had to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was just working from like 7 in the morning till 10:30 at night. Sometimes I didn't have a break. Sometimes I didn't eat. I always made sure my staff had breaks.
Yeah.
But I found that because I was doing all the bookings, all the function bookings, I ended up doing all the cleaning. I was head chef, had to do all the ordering. I had to do all the menu changes because we still changed it every week. I had to do all the prep as well. So there was all of that. And I just couldn't switch off. Like, it got to the point where this amazing dream that I've always wanted was turning into a nightmare. Like suddenly people just weren't coming in. Like people were saying, "Oh, we really want to support you. So we've come for dinner, but we're not drinking tonight."
Yeah.
And as a restaurant person, I don't know whether many people realize, but alcohol is what makes you the money, not the food.
Correct. Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Way better margins within that. So you want
right,
people having 2, 3, or 4 beers whilst they're there, or cocktails, because there's good
yeah.
markups on those sort of things. But
And I totally get that people are, it's cheaper to drink at home, but I don't think a lot of people actually realize that. And so, you've got 6 people who are sharing 3 meals, for example, and not drinking. And you're like, man, thank you for your support. Like, but I've worked on a basis that every customer needs to spend $55, and this is not happening.
Yeah.
So it started to get really, really worrying, where it was like, now I've done a square loan. I've started to borrow money to pay wages. I'd stopped being paid a long time ago. My investor, we'd had to stop paying them the 15% interest. First, it started with not being able to pay them the minimum amount back, and then it was like, can we just pay interest only? And then it was like, I haven't got 15% interest. So then, of course, the investor starts getting worried, which makes it really difficult for me because I'm already
And the
worried.
stress really starts to amp up, doesn't it? Because once you
Oh,
can't pay, your priority at that point is your staff, right? You
yeah,
know that
staff and
to keep them
suppliers.
coming every single day, you need to keep paying your staff. You've got to make sure they're paid before anything else. But then the knock on is that once you start to have to, miss a payment to a supplier,
Yeah.
then they start to, knock on your door and go, hey, we're
Yeah.
waiting on this invoice. Oh, look, we'll let you off this week. As long as you pay it by the weekend, then we'll get your next order out. But then it
Yeah.
starts to snowball, doesn't it?
And I think as well as, I'm looking at Now Book It and I'm seeing how many people we've got booked in and I'm going, this is not even going to cover the wages this fortnight.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, what do I need to do? How am I going to get this sorted out? And so then you'd start thinking, right, well, if I do a function, I probably can make 4,000 from that. But we had quite strict regulations where we were as well at the hotel, which didn't make it very easy either, because we had to have everyone off the premises by 9 because the hotel guests didn't want to be disturbed. Well, I can't really do a Christmas function and be like, yeah, so sorry guys, you're going to leave at 9.
Yeah.
So
People
that
want to kick on
first
into the
year,
evening, don't they? Yeah.
that first year we lost $22,000 in Christmas bookings.
Yeah.
And that would have set me up for the
So
rest of
did
the
you have
time.
to cancel, or did you have to send people home because of that?
I literally
Relation
had to
there.
just say I can't do it. I know that you all these businesses want to come and do it, and they'd been to me previously at the General, so they wanted to support me. But I just, and that was the problem, I think, in regards to reading the lease, something that both myself and my partner hadn't really done before. And we were kind of like, oh yeah, that'll be fine. We can get permission for functions. And unfortunately that didn't happen. So I'm suddenly then doing gigs like ABBA Night, amazing. Like I did a roast fondue, which was just so much fun, and everyone loved it. And it was just, but everyone had to go out at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
And I'd had people, because what I thought originally, you see, was that we could package up like a dinner, bed and breakfast.
Mhm.
So when the hotel's quiet in winter, well, I'll do functions and then people can stay there. So it's
Yep.
like a win-win.
Yep.
But unfortunately that didn't sort of come around, and neither did I was thinking we could do in-service breakfast, or they get discount if they come and join, or all this type of thing.
Yep.
So that didn't come to fruition, which then meant, well, how the hell do I get an extra 5,000 a week in?
It's almost impossible then at that point, isn't it? Because you're
Yeah.
a lot of those sort of events, your big earning is people hitting the bar and buying those drinks from 9 till sort of 11 o'clock, where you would probably say that would be your last sort of drink, get
Yep.
everyone out by sort of 11:30 and that.
Yeah.
But these are licensing restrictions that people don't always take into consideration, and not everybody that comes in are like, oh, well, this is ridiculous. Why can't we do this? And you're like, well, this is out of my hands. Like, I can't do this for you. I'm really sorry. But then you look like the bad person, and you've put about that much effort into trying to create this. Again, it's all your time and all your effort that you put in at no pay. So
Yeah. And it is really frustrating as well, because along that time, people started charging for deliveries, for example. So suddenly what used to be a free delivery if you were ordering a certain amount, suddenly it was $20.
Yeah.
Now you times that by 4 times a week or 5 or whatever, and then suddenly that's an extra $100 a week you've got to find. But on top of that, your toilet roll's gone up. People don't think about that. Like, people are just coming in and using it, but that's gone up, as well as the delivery, as well as all the dishwashing solutions. Your coffee cups that you charge so much for coffee. You're getting a coffee cup and a lid every single time that's now sustainable. You're getting sugar that I have to pay for. So it's all this stuff that, Florio milk, because we want to support local. So we were buying cheap milk. I was making sure
You're
that
getting
all of the
quality in that.
customers, Vitora coffee, like amazing, and it was really hard to try and explain that to people who would say, oh, you know what you should do? You should do this, this, and this. And you're kind of like, I'd love to, but guess
and
what?
that's the thing, is everyone has an opinion, don't they? And that cup, what people wouldn't realize in that is, yes, it's same looking kind of cup that you would get your takeaway coffee in. However, now that we're going through a sustainable, sort of situation with everyone is all about supporting the being good for the environment and that. So your cup lid has now gone up in price because it can be compostable, as opposed to the plastic that would have been put into recycling or general waste and that.
Which is exactly, and that's the thing. You want to be a sustainable business and you want to make things okay and make things better, but that comes at a cost. And as a business owner, I wore that cost because I didn't want people going, oh, well, the coffee down the road's like cheaper. And it's like, yeah, but they've got 3 chains, you know, they've got like 3 massive places and, you know, they've been going for 20 years.
Yes.
I'm new. Like,
Yes.
you know, I haven't got a pot of money anymore. And that was
Yes.
when I started to, my business partner actually applied for a loan um, on my behalf because I
Yes.
think she wanted me to take some responsibility. And that was the point where I was actually under the mental health care team at no longer. I'd had a massive breakdown. Again, I couldn't let my staff members know this. I felt really embarrassed because, like, how the hell have I got into a position where I'm now overdue on like my home rent? I haven't got a car, like I haven't got a car anymore because I sold it for rent.
Yes.
Like it was getting to the point where I was just like, not even robbing Peter to pay Paul. Paul was not even getting paid. Like, let's
Yeah.
not even think about these guys.
Yeah.
And I went to Centrelink and they put me on JobKeeper, but I'm running a business 80 hours a week. How am I supposed to go for interviews?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And these interviews you're meant to take the first job that is offered to you and that as well.
uh-huh. And
So
I was
then,
just like, how do I even, and how do I tell my staff that I'm on Centrelink because I don't get paid and that I'm literally broke? I'm living like from the food in the restaurant, like whatever's left over, you know.
yeah.
And it just got to the point where I was like, man, and I said to you earlier, for me, it was like spinning plates and they were just falling. Those plates were falling and this beautiful dream and this stunning restaurant. And I thought my nan would be so proud of me and
Yeah.
I'd let everybody down,
Yeah.
everybody. And that's how I felt. Nobody knew at the time. So I actually, for the first time in my life, I got really suicidal. I wrote letters to everybody and it was the only way I could see things getting better at that
Yeah.
point. It
Yeah.
was, you know, if I go, then the kids will have my superannuation. They'll be able to put that as a deposit to a house. You know, then the money can pay my business owner back. Like I had literally sat down as a financial planner and gone, the only thing that's going to work here is if you kill yourself because the world
Yeah.
will be better off without you.
Oh man, and that's so deep and also very dark. But like at this point, like for what people probably wouldn't understand as a business owner, your dream was to create this business model that was
Yep.
all about being humble and having
Yep.
home cooked dinners and doing
Yep.
everything that sort of made you feel comfortable and the things you loved in life. And that was what was going through to
The
repay your
worst thing for
family.
me was that people loved it. Like,
Yeah,
and I said I could almost cope with it if it was a failure, but it
yeah,
wasn't. We were fully booked right until the end, and
yeah,
that's where I'm saying the cost of living is having such a massive impact on
yeah,
the people that spend that money. I mean, my son's restaurants is more high end. He's got
yeah,
different clientele, and they have got no problems with spending that money. For myself, I was a lot more mum and dads, you know,
yeah,
and mum and dads have got cricket to pay, they've got this
yeah.
to pay, you know, it's your
You
money is
didn't have
so
the ability
valuable.
to change the pricing of your food
Yeah.
because it was going to become unaffordable.
And then the thing is, though, as well, is that the home loans have gone up. So these poor guys are suddenly like 1,000 a month down as well. So they don't eat out as much anymore, maybe for birthday and Christmas, and they get takeaway because it's cheaper. You know,
Yep.
so I understand all of that. Like as I say, financial planning background, I went through every scenario. I did not expect the scenario. We were actually running at about a 23% loss, I think, at the end. And I couldn't get that back. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I
That's a
remember
lot when you put
talking,
it into a perspective of per week. When you sit there and even if you were to say, I could take, even if you could get like 10 grand a week and all that, that's 2 grand loss, right? And that's very similar to where I was at with my pork burger business going
yeah,
through winter. And the hardest thing is we were having to rely on Uber because our staff weren't busy enough in these peak. And it was a very weather dependent venue.
yeah,
But in sort of May and June, we were scratching for sort of getting customers through. It was cold nights and that people weren't coming out, but the cost
yeah,
of living and that. And then, so we were actually relying on Uber and Uber was costing us about 34% on our revenue already. And then what
yeah,
I started to find is, we had other burger people in the area and I was looking
yeah,
on Uber because we were like, right, we have to have it. It's keeping people busy. But then I was seeing all these other burger chains were sitting there as top selections of the week. And I'm like, well, why aren't we? Like, is it a problem with our burgers and all that? So I actually started to experiment with Uber ads. Now, as soon as I started putting an investment of about $80 per day into Uber ads, it was then starting to boost us on Uber. So I had to
Right.
pay them to boost us on Uber just so that we were visible among of other sort of competitors. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, our revenue did jump from Uber from $1,000 a week up to sort of three and a half grand.
Yeah.
However, that meant I was actually paying them 50% of my
Yeah.
revenue. So after the end of the weekend, they were sending me about $1,700 back. So
Yeah.
I'm like, actually, I'm not making money here either, but
Mm.
everyone's ordering from home. The amount of people, we were having more people do Uber than they were coming into the
Yeah.
venue during winter. So
And
that's a
we looked at that. It's quite difficult because my business partner doesn't have a hospitality background, which was fine because I was employed as the manager. Do you know what I mean? But she would come up with all these ideas and get frustrated with me because how could I do Uber? There was only me in the kitchen.
yeah.
Like, and
Who's
if I
packaging it
suddenly
up and
yeah,
processing it and
and then
ticking them
like
off?
if
So,
I'm still trying to do stock and bake cakes and
mm,
train the front of house staff and run the food some nights because we didn't have anyone in, how the hell am I supposed to do Uber? And of
yeah,
course, the idea would be that by now we would have had a chef and they would be doing it. I would be out front and managing the team, and then yes, we could have looked at getting another chef in, but that's not what was happening. And my biggest fear was like, I don't want to do a roast dinner at home for people because the quality is not going to be there, and my name and my reputation means a lot to me. I've built it up over a long time. And so for me, it's like, I think she'd get frustrated because I wasn't just like yeah, no worries, I'll give it a go. I was like,
mhm,
that is practically not going to work for me.
no.
How do I serve 10 people in the restaurant and then I've got 10 orders to take away and there's just me? Like,
And in the good old days, quality was everything. And now for a roast dinner, like there's nothing better than a nice crunchy potato. You
yep,
know, you don't if you got a Yorkshire pudding, you don't
yep,
want that going soft and soggy. And all of this has to be put into a foam container
yep.
or a compostable container. So the quality at home, and then
That
you run
costs
the
money.
risk of the reviews. You know, the people going, I got this roast dinner. Yeah, the
It was
meat was
crap.
nice and
Yep.
tender, but everything else was soggy. You know, and we
And
know
that's
Uber
sort of
had
where
done
I
two
was
drops.
really, yeah, that's where I was really concerned because all of my reviews were amazing. Before we closed, we won the best customer service award. My staff were amazing, so it's like I did not want to ruin that business model and ruin the reputation of people sort of going, oh, she's really gone downhill lately, because that meant a lot to me too, and I think your reputation, well, for me, making sure that I paid my staff on time and paid my suppliers on time was way more important. And I would rather walk out with my head high, knowing that I've done a really, really good job. Of course, it didn't work like that because you don't walk out with your head high. You have to be dragged from the venue. And
Yes.
also the people that take over the lease, you go and sit outside and watch them for hours and hours crying in your car, which is what I did
Yeah.
for the first few months. Which by that time, as I say, I was under the mental health care team at Noarlunga, and I was in a really risky position. I was not thinking about, like, it's hard to explain, but I was looking in on a world without me and realizing how much better it would be.
Yeah.
And I also, when you've had a dream for all your life and then you make it reality and it's so amazing, but you have to walk away from it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You
and then
feel
people,
broken, don't you? It's
yeah. And people are like, oh, you'll feel better soon. I'm like, I won't ever feel better. Like, I will
yeah.
never feel better. This is still traumatic to me. It hurts me so much. And, oh, but you'll soon find something else to do. No, I won't, because I've gone bankrupt and I've lost all my finance papers. I can't work in a bank again. And I
Yeah.
don't want to. Like, that wasn't
Yeah.
me.
It's so that background that you had, that other sort of industry that you could have fallen
Oh,
back on, has now been taken away from you. And
yeah.
that's another thing that I sort of want. Well, firstly, Vic, is I'm really glad that none of these things that you wrote down and you talked about and you thought was better ever happened, because not only did I very much enjoy our relationship and coming in and serving you drinks and all that, because you've always been very lovely to us, but I know your family and your friends would actually miss you. So the world wouldn't be a better place without you in it. This conversation doesn't end here. What we've talked about today is just the surface, the mental weight business owners carry every day, often in silence. In part 2, Vic and I go deeper. We talk about what happens when that pressure catches up with you, how it shows up in your life, and what actually helps when you're in it. So if this episode hit home, make sure you come back for part 2, because that's where the conversation really opens up. I'm Lee Stone, and this is The Brokerpreneur. Real business, real struggle, real talk.
All so